we'll go ahead and do the interview portion of this, George. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And we'll go through, I got some questions that are some things we've already talked about in the phone interview, but I want to kind of repeat them for Jeff's benefit and for Mr. Gill's benefit as well. Kind of so they can get the benefit of what your answers were to me on these few questions. So first off, why are you interested in the job? Why did you apply for the job here with the town of Smyrna?
I went to UT, and after taking several geography classes, I talked with an advisor, and he looked at what my strengths and weaknesses were and what I enjoyed, and he said you should look into planning. And so I looked into it, and I found out that I really enjoyed what I did, and I liked that with planning you can really make an impact for a town and help it grow and thrive.
Okay. But as far as this job here in Smyrna, why are you interested in doing that here, I guess?
I like the town of Smyrna. I was referred to look onto the American Planning Association website, and I saw it on there, and I did some research into the town, and I loved it. It was relatively about the same size as Kingsport. I liked its location with its being close to Nashville, but it wasn't in it, so you didn't have to deal with a lot of that stuff. And that's really kind of some of the reasons why. And I knew with starting in a smaller town, I feel like, so I was doing an internship with the city of Kingsport. I thought this would be a great transition.
Okay. You kind of maybe describe a time you've had like a really complex project, whether at the internship or in class in college or whatever. It made you required you to have to be really extremely detail oriented. Maybe how did you just kind of describe the project?
Yeah, let's see. I would say whenever I was at UT, me and in my GIS class, one of the GIS classes I took, me and two other classmates, we had to make a map of Knox County, and on this map we had to map out locations where like the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization of Knox County, where they would take their little kids to, and we had to. It was kind of difficult always keeping in contact with them, because sometimes they wouldn't always get back to us with information and stuff. We always had to keep going back and checking in on them and see where they were and getting all the locations that we needed to map out. And that took it was kind of aggravating because they did take so long in order to get the required information back to us. But the map that we did end up using is being used today by them, and they're giving it out to like new Big Brothers and Big Sisters that come to work for, or like volunteer for that chapter, or using it today.
You told me about a time maybe where you had multiple tasks going on at the same time. How did you go about staying organized?
I definitely say I was taking, like this past semester, back in the spring, I was taking 19 credit hours, and getting close to the end, I had multiple papers and assignments due because I was taking 6 classes at the time, and I ended up having, within like a week, I had 30 pages of papers due on top of multiple tests. And what I did was I ended up just getting a calendar, writing out whenever each thing was due, and then see what looked into each individual task to see when each would how much time each would take, and then the ones that would take the longer, start on them first and try to get them out of the way, and then progress from there.
Okay. Tell me about a time where you maybe had to deal with, an angry or a frustrated citizen or a customer, and how did you handle that?
In my time from working at the Chick-fil-A location in Kingsport, there would be times where customers would call in, and especially through the phone, in anger on one issue or another. And whenever they would call in and I would answer, I would first calmly ask them like what their problem was, and then I'd first things first, just make sure they're calm and let them know that I feel for them. I'm terribly sorry that it happened, and I would do everything in my ability to help correct the problem, or if I was unable to myself, I would let them know that I would let somebody above myself handle the problem.
Okay. Tell me about a time maybe when you had a coworker or a fellow student, maybe a teammate, that wasn't pulling their own weight, or maybe they were somehow otherwise difficult to get along with. How did you handle that situation?
I think a time or two in school, especially at UT, whenever I work with groups, there would be a person or two that wouldn't want to pull their weight, and in order to deal with them, I would first try to see why they weren't doing what their share of the work, and if there was some issue that I could help them with, I would try to. If there was something that I couldn't help them with, then I would, me and the other group members, we would try to do our best to help take on their share of the work in order to get to our final destination.
Okay. You have any questions yet?
So, have you been through the city yet?
I've been through a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Any first impressions of?
I like the city. It's from driving through, like we drove through this way, and we drove along the main strip through here, and it seems a whole lot like Kingsport, where I grew up.
How many people live in Kingsport?
It's at 51,000,
Okay.
Pretty close.
so it's very, very similar.
47 now.
Is that one of the Tri-Cities?
Yeah,
Okay.
it kind of tends to be like the forgotten one, because there's Bristol with the racetrack and everything, and then Johnson City is pretty well known with ETSU being up there, but a lot of times Kingsport can tend to be forgotten about, but Kingsport's actually it's very similar to Smyrna, because with Smyrna being home to the big Nissan plant, it's actually home to Eastman Chemical Company's headquarters.
Is that Kodak?
Yeah, whenever Eastman Kodak split, the Eastman part of it moved to Kingsport for their headquarters. And a lot of times I'm sure you all have seen those like Camelback like water bottles, like the plastics for those. That's where they're made at, and a lot of other like different like plastics and stuff like that.
What would you say is the biggest, I guess, problem or challenge that Kingsport's facing right now from a planning standpoint?
From a planning standpoint, I would I'd definitely say they're very lacking on I guess like retail and stuff. Like a lot of them are going because they just recently built a big brand new shopping district up in Bristol, and there's several stores and different sorts that are moving up there, and a lot of the residents of Kingsport have definitely been discouraged by it. And then it always, since I've been around, it's always been like this, where if there's anything that comes to the Tri-Cities, it usually always seems to go to Johnson City, which Johnson City, a lot of times they get stuff because they do have the university there, and it tends to attract people to it. And that's a big part of what Kingsport's lacking in is just trying to bring in new retail. And then I'd also say that they've kind of lacked in. 'Cause it's really good, especially if you do have like a big industry, to bring in a lot of supporting industries that they work with into the town, and they haven't. I wouldn't say that Kingsport itself has done very well in bringing in industries that Eastman deals a lot with.
Okay. I think there's a question Mr. Gill was asked. I remember. He always asks about, have you ever had any experience at all, like with grant writing or anything like that?
I am not.
Okay. That's always something he always likes to get ways we can get grant money into the town to do projects and all, which is, we do try to do a lot of that,
Mhm.
which is good. So, do you have any questions of us?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Well, unless you have anything else, Jeff?
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Tell you what, we'll
In the heart of the Tri-Cities area is where Interstate 81 and Interstate 26, they make a crossing up there, and they try to get development to go up there for quite a long time, but it just seems that it's never ever took off, and they're just rolling hills, and that's just about it. But even though it seems like it would be like a wonderful location just because of all the traffic that's going through there. And I just kind of tell about the study itself. Similar to Smyrna, the whole Tri-Cities area has seen a whole lot of growth in population over the last several years, and with that population growth is come about a greater need for more development, whether it's industry, retail, so on and so forth. And in knowing that the area needed that, that's why I looked at that area, and I looked first. What I did was I looked at different previous studies that had been done on that area, and looking at it, there's if you look at especially like this first map, it kind of shows like the whole general area that where it's although it's in the heart of the Tri-Cities area, it's easily accessible from Virginia, North Carolina, and even drop people from getting close to the Knoxville area. And to continue on, what we looked at was first what past improvements have been done to that area, and one road that comes right off has been completely relocated in order to allow a future development for a large shopping and dining complex to be built in the area, as well as TDOT has improved both all of the interchanges off of the interstates onto different side roads in the area. And kind of like I just described, here's one of the GIS maps I did on the different past improvements that were made to the area. And the greater market area for this general crossing area would stretch up to probably about Wise, Virginia, along 23, which Interstate 26, it stops once you get to the Virginia line, but it does continue on as U.S. Highway 23, and it go all the way down into the North Carolina mountains, as well as extend to Abington and to the west of Rogersville and Greenville. And if you look inside that circle area, it was estimated like the general population, it was about 400,000 people that lived within there. Looking at the land area, there was a whole lot of hills, and then some parts of it did have a rugged terrain, and I did take that into consideration. There was some houses, some apartments, but an overwhelming majority of the land was just either vacant or just farmland. And there were just 2 schools within the area. There was 2 small elementary schools, one for the city of Kingsport itself, and the other was one of the Sullivan County elementary schools. And if you look at this map on page 9, it showed the current land usage, and as you can see, like the R's are and blues are both residential, and then there's some the agricultural vacant land, and the pink in the very middle is where that crossing construction area currently is taking place. The area is good for any kind of development because the water and sewer line infrastructure is already underneath all of the area, so it wouldn't be a big challenge in still trying to bring all that out into the area. And looking at, there isn't on the side roads, because there is very little in the area other than some houses, there is not a lot of traffic through those roads, but they very well could be expanded if the need were to arise and the area were to develop much higher, that the roads could take a whole lot more traffic through them. Looking at how the roads could be improved, me and my supervisor, Bill Albright, what we did was we looked at the trip counts from both TDOT and ones taken by the city of Kingsport itself. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot on a lot of the side roads, but especially getting around the interstates, there's a whole lot of traffic that goes through there, which makes the area that much greater for stuff that come into the area. And what we do is we ran 2 scenarios. One was where the area takes off and there's stuff that comes, the whole area just gets used very, very wisely, very widespread usage. And if you look at the second map on page 14, it shows, we looked at how the area could be used for both residential, could be hotel, restaurants. There's some light industry in the area, but they're mostly just like 2 trucking stations, and where they are, there could be the growth of some more in that area, but what the city is wanting to try to do is go away from that, because sometimes it can be an eyesore whenever you have a whole lot of trucking companies in that area.
For quick cash places.
And whenever it's been about 15 years ago, whenever those trucking companies were there, they couldn't get any other businesses to come to the area, so they were like, hey, there's some quick cash, let's bring in these trucking companies. And now the city's like, oh man, this is a prime real estate.
Yeah.
What were we thinking?
What happened?
And they told me that all the time. And we use information to run trip generation on the roads using that first scenario on what improvements would need to be made if we were to able to grow that region like we would like to. And so using how much traffic flows in and out of an area with those different types of, whether it's industry, retail, hotels, housing, all sorts of stuff like that, and how much traffic goes in and out of areas like that. We looked at what the peak traffic flow would look like in those areas, and that's what we did for on page 16 with this map. And we also ran a second scenario in which we thought this is not going to work at all. Let's try looking at a second way in which only half of this stuff that we're proposing in the first scenario actually come. And there, if only half of what we thought would maybe come there, there would be a whole lot less need for improvements to any of the roads in the area. And as you can see, in especially starting like on 18 through 20, there's a lot of looking at that that first scenario with the high intensity development. There's some recommendations on what ways we can improve some of the roads. And getting towards the end, we listed all those improvements and what they would look like in order to, like money-wise, in order to make all those improvements happen. And not only did we look at what the estimated cost would be, we looked at what would need to be happen first for it by priority level, and which would be the greatest thing in order if we needed to get TDOT money or if we needed to use money that within like through city taxes for all those roads. And in conclusion, we would like to see a lot of these things happen, but it still doesn't look like it will any time in the future, because even looking at other interstate crossings such as 26 and 95 down South Carolina, it's very, very, very similar. It's just a little, it's only about 20-30 minutes to the north of the Charleston, South Carolina area, but just like it, there's no development whatsoever around the crossing. Any questions, comments?
Is the topography what creates greater challenges for development?
Area it does, and what we looked at was in the, I think I have a map, let's see which one it is. There's one map in here that shows a little of the topography of the region itself, and in the areas that were on the side like hillsides, what we were proposing is those would probably be good areas, especially for like apartments and stuff like that, because they can build up on along hillsides. But some of the area was on page 8. It kind of shows some of the topography. It's somewhere along like Kinder Creek Road and Somerville Road, kind of north of Rock Springs Road. Those are pretty steep hills, but after the incline is pretty steep, but once you get off of like the hill itself, it's a lot more gradual, and then they are a lot better for development.
Well, we got a Rock Springs Road here. Never knew where it ended up at.
It's kind of funny. I had some Mr. Rigsby. I noticed that I was looking at a map and I was like, "There's a Rock Springs Road here, man," because that's where my older sister, she lives off of Rock Springs Road. And I came in on Sulphur Springs, and there's a Sulphur Springs
Really?
community over by Johnson City.
Wow,
Johnson City
the never-ending Rock Springs
and
Road.
Elizabeth, and isn't that where Jim Warren was from?
Good for Elizabeth.
It's pretty, again, it's gorgeous country.
Randy Sayers had family in Johnson City. I guess when his family had moved from there.
Good job.
Thank you. Y'all free to keep those, share them with anybody, whatever you'd like.
Okay.